help in this case.
Thank you. That concludes questions, and we will now proceed to the business question. Shadow Leader of the House, Lucy Powell.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. To ask the Leader of the House for the forthcoming business.
Leader of the House.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. The business for the week commencing the 22nd of April will include, on Monday the 22nd of April, consideration of a Lord's message to the safety of Rwanda Asylum and Immigration Bill, followed by a debate on a motion on hospice funding. The subject for this debate was determined by the Backbench Business Committee. On Tuesday the 23rd of April, second reading of the Football Governance Bill, followed by, if necessary, consideration of Lord's messages to the safety of Rwanda Asylum and Immigration Bill. On Wednesday the 24th of April, remaining stages of the Renters Reform Bill, followed by a motion to approve a statutory instrument relating to terrorism. Thursday the 25th of April, a debate on a motion on Lesbian Visibility Week, followed by a debate on a motion of the Buckland Review of Autism Employment. The subjects for these debates were determined by the Backbench Business Committee. Friday the 26th of April, private members' bills. The provisional business for the week commencing the 29th of April includes, on Monday the 29th of April, consideration in committee of the Post Office Horizon System Offences Bill. Tuesday the 30th of April, consideration of Lord's amendments to the Digital Markets Competition and Consumers Bill. Wednesday the 1st of May, remaining stages of the Automated Vehicles Bill, Lords. Thursday the 2nd of May, business to be determined by the Backbench Business Committee. The House of Commons will rise for the early May bank holiday at the conclusion of business on the 2nd of May and return on Tuesday the 7th of May.
Lucy Powell.
Thank you very much, Madam Deputy Speaker. May I take this opportunity to put on record my deepest sympathies to Mr Speaker on the loss of his dear father, Doug Hoyle. I remember him as a real character, an important figure in the Labour movement over many decades, serving as both an MP and a peer. He was a proud Northerner and represented the traditions of the Labour movement. I know he was incredibly proud of Mr Speaker and how much he and Kath cared for him in his later years, and my thoughts are with them both. The attacks by Iran on Israel have rightly been condemned by all sides of the House. Thankfully, their intentions were thwarted, and we now join together in calling for restraint and de-escalation in the aftermath. Moreover, we cannot let these events deter or detract from international efforts to bring about a sustainable ceasefire in Gaza and create the conditions for a long-term two-state solution. With increasing global conflict, it is unacceptable that the government has rejected the recommendations from the Cross-Party Procedures Committee for the Foreign Secretary to be accountable in this House. It is simply not the case that he, nor indeed the government, has been forward-leaning in this regard, as the leader says. Statements by his now deputy have been very few and far between, and his appearances at select committees all but dried up. The leader has many times in these exchanges assured that members would have the opportunity to question the Foreign Secretary, saying that, and I quote, "When the Procedure Committee brings forward measures, I am sure those measures will be put in place." So why has she now blocked this? Or did she lose the argument in government? She seems to struggle to be heard in government lately, doesn't she? I know she's keen to talk about defence spending too, although apparently Number 10 blocked her. Does she want to take the opportunity today? Like me, I know she will be concerned to hear that the UK now spends less on defence as a percentage of GDP than when Labour was last in office. And she's not listened to when it comes to legislative business before the House either. Because I was really puzzled that the Leader of the House was unable to support a flagship piece of government legislation, as she apparently thinks it's unworkable. Forgive me, Madam Deputy Speaker, but isn't it the job of the Leader of the House to ensure that any government legislation tabled is well drafted, thought through and will achieve its aims? She chairs the government's legislative committee, doesn't she? She has more influence than nearly anybody else about the drafting of a bill. So what went wrong? Madam Deputy Speaker, after our Easter break from these sessions, we have returned to Groundhog Day. It might be a new term, but it's the same old story. More decent Conservative members announcing they're standing down, Treasury ministers hitting the airwaves, getting the numbers wrong, a weak Prime Minister who can't face down his own party, running scared of his own legislation and refusing to say how his cuts to national insurance will be funded, and the former Prime Minister still unable to show any contrition for her actions directly costing mortgage holders hundreds of pounds a month. Cabinet splits and rival factions all on open display, with ever more extreme positions and platforms taken, and yet more Tory sleaze and scandal. Today's revelations about the member for the Fylde are extraordinary, but they raise some very serious questions about the misuse of funds and the pressure put on others to facilitate it. Perhaps more importantly, also how these issues are handled by the Conservative Party. There's a worrying pattern here of cover-up and inaction. So can she shed some light? What and when did the Chief Whip, Prime Minister and Party Chairman know? Why did it take the publication of the story today for the whip to be removed? Has this matter been referred to the police? If not, why not? It seems that yet again, like with the member for Hazel Grove and so many other recent cases of sleaze and scandal, they're too weak to act decisively and instead choose to brush things under the carpet. The truth is, they've given up on governing. They've given up on winning the next election. It's all about saving their own skin and the inevitable leadership battle. I can tell her that we, on this side, have been there before, and it doesn't end well. The public don't easily forgive politicians who put party before country and don't focus relentlessly on fixing the problems they face.
Lord President of the Council, Penny Mordaunt.
Oh, thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. Can I join with the Honourable Lady opposite in formally conveying my sympathies to the Speaker on the loss of his father? I have spoken to him privately and written to him as well. Can I also congratulate Three Dads Walking for being awarded the Petition of the Year by the Petitions Committee for their important work on suicide prevention, and wish all colleagues running the marathon, 18 of them in total, and everyone running the marathon, good luck. On Monday evening, the very special Jewish festival of Passover begins. Like their ancestors before them, Jewish families around the world will gather round their Seder tables to retell the story of the Jewish people's exodus from Egypt. However, this year, many of them will be leaving an empty seat open at those tables for those still held captive by Hamas in Gaza. I hope this will be the last Jewish holiday where they are unable to celebrate with their families, and wish all those celebrating a Hagsa Me'ach. Could I also thank all honourable members for their resolve and support with regard to Israel's security? I think that is an important message that we send from this House. The Honourable Lady mentions the issue of the Foreign Secretary being accountable to this House and the work of the government in that regard being accountable to this House. Since the Foreign Secretary was appointed, we have had 8 FCDO oral statements, 3 prime ministerial statements on foreign affairs, a general debate in government time on the situation in the Red Sea, and 17 Westminster Hall debates responded by FCDO ministers, and obviously oral questions in both houses. We are sticking with the usual precedents of both houses. The Honourable Lady asks me to comment on defence. I'm very happy to compare this government's record with the last Labour government's record. We have had the largest uplift to the defence budget since the end of the Cold War. And when we came into office, we inherited a defence budget and equipment programme with a £71 billion black hole in it on RUSI's figures. I remember from my own constituency that Portsmouth, Faslane and Plymouth were having to state the case for them to continue to be naval bases forces in this country, and the previous Labour government knew its record with the armed forces was poor, because in 2005 it disenfranchised all of them by changing the rules on voter registration. The Honourable Lady points to the vote on smoking. I think free votes in this place are good on such matters, but whatever our difference of opinion, in future years, I'm hopeful that there will be fewer fag packets around upon which Labour economic teams can do their sums on. I think that is a jolly good thing. And Labour seem to be continuing to push this line on national insurance contributions. Good luck to them in that respect. But let me just point out some of the reasons why it will not get traction. National insurance contribution receipts do not determine the NHS budget or pensions. It is only the Labour Party that have cut the NHS budget, and it is actually Labour's policy, at least when I came into the chamber, Madam Deputy Speaker, to support our tax cuts, and I hope that is helpful information to the Honourable Lady. The Honourable Lady mentioned some very serious allegations and other incidents that came to light during the course of the recess. These are very serious matters, and some of them are under police investigation. She wouldn't expect me to comment on that. But we take these matters very seriously. We have taken action to this week, again, improve online safety and other matters. The deep fake phenomenon, Madam Deputy Speaker, is more widespread than you might think. The public may well be fooled into thinking that something is the case when it is not, or that the person they know is manifestly different, and we need to expose such scams, Madam Deputy Speaker. They might be tempted, the Honourable Lady talks about defence, to believe a person is committed to this nation's nuclear deterrent, but in reality note that same person was content to serve in the cabinet of the last Labour leader, and that 6 of his front bench voted to end our nuclear deterrent. They might think that the Labour Party are the part of the NHS, but as we know, they're the only party that has cut the NHS budget. They might be tempted by the sound of secure economics, only to discover that that is built on unfunded pledges and unspecified tax increases, or be tempted by the look of the Shadow Chancellor's commitment to end unpaid internships, only to find that she has used them herself, or Labour's campaign against fire and rehire, only to discover that is exactly what Labour HQ did under this Labour leader, or be sucked in by talk about them wanting to protect pensioners and then learning that they won't commit to our triple lock, and that hundreds of thousands of more pensioners were living in absolute poverty under the last Labour government. Businesses might be flattered, Madam Deputy Speaker, by email and online ads from Labour, unaware of the 70 new regulatory burdens that would be piled onto them in a Labour government. My advice is don't be tempted, don't be fooled by a shadow Foreign Secretary who nominated the Honourable Member for Islington North to be Prime Minister, or a shadow International Development Secretary who wants to turn our armed forces into a hippie hit squad, or a party that had until last year a shadow Minister for Disarmament, or a shadow Energy Secretary whose poor judgment on national security and our interests led to disaster and op-shader, or a shadow Deputy Prime Minister who holds others to standards she does not think should apply to herself, or a party that talks tough on borders but as of yesterday has voted 132 times against strengthening them. The Leader of the Opposition has spent 4 years in office posting pictures to his profile of Neil Kinnock, Tony Blair and Margaret Thatcher. Don't be fooled. Behind that profile sits a man with no plan for this country, except the vested interests of militant unions, support for the arguments of those that would do this nation harm. It's deep fake Labour led by Catfish Keir. Do not fall for it.
Just before we proceed, may I, on behalf of Mr. Speaker, we can sit down. Before we proceed, may I, on behalf of Mr. Speaker, thank the Leader of the House and the Shadow Leader of the House and all other members who've expressed their sympathy to him on the loss of his father. Lord Hoyle, Doug Hoyle, was a dedicated parliamentarian, an inspirational, kind and amusing gentleman, and a very proud father, and he will be very greatly missed. I'm sure the whole House will join me in sending our sympathy to Mr. Speaker and his family, and our thoughts will be with them as they make arrangements for Lord Hoyle's funeral. Thank you. Father of the House, Sir Peter Bottomley.
Madam Deputy Speaker, we'll remember Doug Hoyle's smile, we'll remember him with a smile, and I remember he got elected 8 months before I did. Can I say to my right honourable friend that the question and answer on the Cass statement in this House was followed yesterday in the other place, and the Minister there said that he would respond to a number of points in writing. Could she arrange that if information is given by the Minister that wasn't given to this House, could it be put in a written statement or put in the library? Because many of the points, especially if I may say so by Baroness Hayter, were important. We do need an inquiry into how he got into the state that had to be exposed by the 4-year review by Dr. Hilary Cass. We all thank her. One of the things that has not happened yet, but I think may happen in the next week or two, is the report from the Select Committee on the Holocaust Memorial Bill and its hybrid procedure. That has come later, is coming later than we anticipated, so it may contain some interesting recommendations or decisions. Would it be possible, as soon as possible, for the government to say whether they intend to just go on trying to ram this proposal through, where they've already spent over £30 million achieving nothing in the last 8.5 years, and whether they'll have a round table and consider spending £20 million, getting a memorial up in the next 2 years, drawing the lifetime of some of the Holocaust survivors, and move the Learning Centre to the Imperial War Museum.
Well, can I thank my right honourable friend for that statement, and I will certainly make sure that his request with regard to the Cass review is undertaken. He knows that there is a process for the memorial that is going through at the moment. I will again make sure that the relevant Secretary of State has heard what he has said today, but it is also questions to that Secretary of State on Monday, and he may wish to make use of that opportunity.
SNP spokesperson Deidre Brock.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. And can I associate myself with the remarks about Passover, but also, of course, Mr. Speaker's late father, and send my sincerest condolences to him and to his family. Since we last met here for business questions, the leader has been keeping busy. One of her social media posts on X during recess I thought was particularly eye-catching. It was unique because it asked her constituents to contact her directly. So outraged was she by a burning injustice. Damn right it started and went on, I know many of you will have strong feelings on this. Email me and I will make sure your concerns are heard. Such strong feelings, Madam Deputy Speaker. You may wonder what caused this righteous anger. Not just from the leader, but from members across this chamber. Children getting sick swimming through human faeces in the rivers of England, maybe the endless strikes in the NHS in England, arms sales to Israel, an economic crisis triggered by a former Prime Minister, now saviour of the West, the cruel, immoral, illegal and ruinously expensive Rwanda scheme. Maybe that angry post was just a response to her constituents in Portsmouth, who are furious just now, right enough. The likely demolition of the brand new border control post in Portsmouth amongst a herd of such white elephants around the UK, a direct result of her government's ongoing Brexit confusion, will cost a fortune. No, that wasn't what prompted these outbursts. The leader and many of her colleagues were furious about England's new football top. Damn right they were. So no, the farce of the doomed border post on her doorstep hasn't figured in the very busy social media output we see from her. Madam Deputy Speaker, her government's disastrous Brexit import charges are nonetheless coming in on the 30th of April, causing even more costly confusion and raising very real concerns about food shortages, as well as her own local difficulties. So can I ask the leader for an urgent debate on these new Brexit charges and the ongoing catastrophe of Brexit, which Scots, of course, rejected, yet are forced to suffer the ill effects from. Her constituents will be interested to hear an answer, ideally before she wastes more time launching into another anti-Scotland video script.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. Well, first of all, I should thank the Honourable Lady for concern about Portsmouth Port. which is doing very well. We have a brand new passenger terminal. We have an enormous number of new ship visits, projected to increase our local economy by £300 million over the next few years, and in addition to massively increasing and diversifying the freight that is coming into that port, I hope she will welcome the news that the United Kingdom is now also exporting more and has just become the 4th largest exporter in the world. We're doing very well, and I'm always keen to facilitate my constituents who wish to make complaints to all sorts of organisations in the ability to do that. But I would just say to the Honourable Lady that our nation's flag is very important to the people of Portsmouth, and I would suggest that she might like to think twice about before she mocks that view. These things and traditions are important. They are not the worship of ashes, but the preservation of fire. She has been busy too during recess, penning articles about how much I and my colleagues hate Scotland and the Scottish people. She's done it again in her opening remarks and her questions to me. At some point, she will have to say why she thinks that is the case. I know that the Scottish rugby team has been doing very well against England, but this is not grounds, I think, to justify her accusations against me. The SNP do seem to be hell-bent on exposing hate where there is none. I understand that of the 9,000 hate crimes reported under their new law, 3,419 made on April the 1st alone. Only 9 will qualify under this new law. 7 of those 9 have now been dismissed. And I think Police Scotland deserves our thanks and our sympathy. I am quite sure that those police officers joined the force to do something much more helpful for their communities. It is only the Conservatives that have stood against this lunacy. We will continue to do that. Other parties had the opportunity to repeal this law and chose not to. On this side of the House, we know that laws and movements based on hate and division always try and curtail freedom, and we know that in the end, such movements always fail.
Bob Blackman.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker, and I associate myself with the remarks you made about the late father of the Speaker. Indeed, the Chairman of the Backbench Business Committee, member for Gateshead, is with his family right now because his daughter-in-law is still extremely ill, and I'm sure the whole House will send our sympathy and best wishes for a speedy recovery. On behalf of the Backbench Business Committee, then, I thank my right honourable friend for the allocation of time for the hospice funding debate, and I hope this will take place on Monday. It's very heavily subscribed, I believe, and a lot of members will want to take part. Equally, we are now full for the Chamber, so on the 2nd of May there will be a debate on security in the Western Balkans and another debate on pension schemes. On the 9th of May, if we're given the time, a debate on miners and mining communities and the BBC Mid-Term Charter Review, both of which are very popular matters for discussion. We've also allocated all of the time that's available to us in Westminster Hall as well. So if the leader has more time that she needs to allocate to the Backbench Business Committee, we can readily fill up that time if she wishes. Madam Deputy Speaker, before the last mayoral election, the current Mayor of London made a solemn promise that he would not expand ULEZ to Outer London. No sooner had he been re-elected, but of course he started a consultation on expanding ULEZ to Outer London. The fact that 66% of those people that responded to the consultation objected seemed to have no mind. He immediately introduced ULEZ to the whole of Outer London, and people are suffering as a result. Now, at this election, he is now promising not to introduce pay per mile if he's re-elected. So can we trust him? Not a bit of it. The reality is that his advisor has
Order! If the honourable gentleman was out of order and had to sit down, I would tell him, and I don't need the honourable gentleman to tell me how to conduct the affairs of the Chamber. Mr. Blackman.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. One of his key advisers, of course, has let slip now that the Mayor of London, current Mayor of London, is planning to do just precisely that if he is re-elected. So can we have a debate in government time on promises made at elections and promises broken?
Well, first of all, can I thank my honourable friend for stepping up for the chair of the Backbench Business Committee, and I'm sure that all members would join him in sending our thoughts and our love to the honourable member for Gateshead and his whole family at this very difficult time. I thank him also for the advert for future business for the Backbench Business Committee's debates going forward. He is absolutely right to point out the abysmal record and broken promises of Labour's London Mayor. And I'm afraid his war on motorists is going to continue. He's targeting people with ULEZ and LTNs, disproportionately hitting those on low incomes. Meanwhile, Transport for London is not in a financially stable position. Every year, 15,000 fewer homes are being delivered than the Mayor promised in his London plan. And just like their record in Wales, in Birmingham, in Nottingham and countless other places, Labour are failing Londoners. They will be safer with Susan Hall, and I would urge all honourable members to support her.
Rachel Hopkins.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. The Prime Minister has said he would hold a general election in June or July if the results of May's elections aren't that bad for his party. Can I ask the Leader of the House to persuade the Prime Minister to consider the good of the country when considering and deciding the timing of the general election?
I thank the honourable lady for that innovative question. Dates of elections are way above my pay grades, but I will again urge everyone to be voting Conservative when that opportunity arises.
Robert Jenrick.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Last month, Nayat Ghorbrani was wrongly arrested for holding up a placard saying that Hamas are terrorists. He was later de-arrested. Yesterday, the same man was arrested once again, just yards from this place, for holding the same sign. He was then de-arrested again. Well, Hamas are terrorists, and we should all say so and defend freedom of speech. Will my right honourable friend organise a debate in government time on how we can end two-tier policing and we can restore public confidence in the Metropolitan Police?
Well, I thank my right honourable friend for his question. This is a very important matter, and other honourable members have raised it in this chamber, and particularly when that first incident happened. It is very clear what the policy is. I'm very pleased that in both situations this was reversed, but it does go to show that it's not just important that we have the right policies in place, it is also important that we have the operational policing plan, and the training is being done to ensure that officers, quite often facing very difficult situations and confusing situations, know exactly what they should be doing and when. I shall make sure that both the Home Secretary and also the head of the Metropolitan Police have heard his remarks today.
Dame Diana Johnson.
Thank you, Mr Deputy Speaker. It's over a year now since Sir Brian Langstaff made his final recommendations on compensation. The government have accepted the moral case for compensation to be paid. Over 100 people have died in the past 12 months, and still no money has been allocated for compensation. Now, whilst it was a step forward yesterday for amendments to be tabled to the Victim and Prisoners Bill in the other place, the amendment that this House agreed, which had a 3-month time frame for a compensation body to be set up, has been removed in the government's amendments in the other place. I wondered if we could have a statement from the Minister about why exactly it's taking so long to set up this compensation body and to get compensation paid, when the government, if they wanted to, as they've done with the post office scandal, could expedite matters, have a standalone bill brought to this House. I'm sure the House would sit to get that bill through and to get compensation to these people before they die.
Well, can I thank again the Honourable Lady for her diligent work on this incredibly important issue. I think she met with the Minister yesterday and he will have given her an update on the work he was doing. We, of course, recognise many victims have waited too long to see compensation. It is this government that established the inquiry. It is this minister that established the compensation review that was done. And the government amendment that she refers to includes a provision for interim payments to be made to the estates of people infected by those contaminated blood products who have passed away and were registered with the infected blood schemes or its predecessor schemes where an interim payment has not already been made. I have regular meetings with the minister who is overseeing this. She will know that he is working at pace. I'm glad we have gripped this issue, but we need to get those interim payments and full compensation to people swiftly. I'm confident that will happen.
Randall.
Thank you, Mr Deputy Speaker. When I speak to my Gedling constituents, one of the biggest issues they raise with me on the doorstep is the condition of our roads. And a lot of work is being done to fix Gedling's and Nottinghamshire's roads, but cash is a big issue. So I warmly welcome the fact that as part of the new East Midlands Combined Authority, Nottinghamshire and Derbyshire will have what I understand is one of the largest devolved transport budgets. So given this new change, could we have a debate in government time on infrastructure and investment in the East Midlands? And would my right honourable friend agree that such a debate would be a good opportunity to highlight the fact that having done so much work to secure a devolution deal for the East Midlands, the honourable member for Mansfield is the best placed person to lead the East Midlands into its new future?
Well, my honourable friend is right that the East Midlands does have the opportunity to do that on the 2nd of May, and the honourable member for Mansfield, although that's not how his name will appear on the ballot paper, has helped secure the biggest single devolved transport budget in the country, and he has plans to invest that in road resurfacing, better bus and train routes, and has a plan for how that is going to attract jobs and investment. In contrast, the Labour Party have wasted £38 million of taxpayers' money on their failed Robin Hood energy scheme and have now joined with other Labour local authorities in declaring Nottingham City Council bankrupt, raising council tax and making the hard-working people of Nottinghamshire pay for Labour's failures. I think if the honourable gentleman secured a debate on this topic, it would be well attended.
Wera, Hobhouse.
Thank you, Mr Deputy Speaker, and may I add my sincere condolences to Mr Speaker and his family on the loss of his father. Mr Deputy Speaker, a report from the Joe Cox Foundation called "The Abuse of MPs a Threat to Democracy." But it's not just MPs, it's elected members of at all levels, and particularly local councillors too. According to the Local Government Association, 70% of councillors have had similar experiences to MPs. I had a meeting with the Bath and North East Somerset group leaders last week, and I heard absolutely harrowing stories. While we MPs now get extra security through Operation Bridges, local councillors do not get the same protections. Is it not time that the government put its minds to protect local elected members as well, or elected members at all levels? And can we have a statement on that, please?
Good question.
Well, the honourable lady raises a very important matter, and she knows that the Defending Democracy Task Force, headed by the Minister for Security, is looking at these issues and in some cases is actually providing support to councillors or particular councils across the country. The Secretary of State for Science and Technology also met with the Speaker earlier this week and myself about particular online abuse that honourable members are facing. There does need to be, I think, more focus on what particular platforms are doing and their stated responsibilities and whether they are actually living up to them. And I shall make sure that that Secretary of State and the Minister for Security have heard what she has said today.
Sir Alec, Shelbrooke.
Thank you, Mr Deputy Speaker. I applaud the government's efforts in trying to sort out the Gibraltar-Spain border. I'm sure I speak for the whole House when I say how encouraged we are of the agreements announced last Friday. However, The EU Vice Commissioner has been contrary to the areas of airport goods and mobility, and they've only been given some detail of the direction of travel in these areas. And the Chief Minister of Gibraltar, Fabian Picardo, has gone on record to say that Gibraltar will never be Spanish, a sentiment I'm sure the whole House will share. So in light of the comments from the EU Commissioner, can I ask my right honourable friend to make time for a debate in the House to make clear by all parties that this House will never compromise on British sovereignty on the rock, its people or self-determination?
Well, I thank my right honourable friend, for affording the government to state that again at the dispatch box. We will never compromise on British sovereignty of the rock or the right of its people to self-determination. It is incredibly important to us strategically and also culturally, and Gibraltar enables us to defend their and our interests, and as a consequence we will defend Gibraltar from anyone who has other ideas.
Onwurah.
Thank you, Mr Deputy Speaker. Can we have a debate in government time on the role of regional mayors? Lord Houchin, the Conservative Tees Valley Mayor, seems to believe it's to benefit his mates while distancing himself as far as possible from the Conservative Party in whose name he is standing, whereas Chris McEwing, our Labour Party candidate, and Kim McGuinness, our fantastic candidate for North East Mayor, believe it's to bring opportunity to every corner of each region and be a voice for everyone in the region. Who is right?
Well, I think that the fact that Ben Houchin irritates the party opposite so much is testament to his good work. He's saved Teesside Airport from closure, and it's now delivering new flights for local people. He's secured the UK's first and largest free port, which has already seen billions of pounds of private investment secured. The Teesside work site has secured investment from Thai banks. Demolished and decontaminated land ahead of budget and ahead of time, ready for reinvestment, and many other things. But I think the statistic which stands out most was that he has increased the employment rate in the area by 3% above the national average. He's doing a great job. He is a good man, and I hope he will have the opportunity to continue doing that good job in the wake of these appalling smears by the party opposite.
Thank you, Mr Deputy Speaker, and can I thank my right honourable friend for the allocation of the slot for the hospice debate on Monday. Does my right honourable friend agree with me that the decision to establish the Darlington Economic Campus by our right honourable friend the Prime Minister, following relentless campaigning by myself, my fantastic Tees Valley colleagues and our marvellous Mayor Ben Houchin, was a game changer for Darlington? Does she further agree with me that saving our airport, launching Tees Works and restoring Tees Pride are further examples of why Ben Houchin should continue to serve Teesside, Darlington and Hartlepool? And can she find time for a specific debate on the modernising revolution that Ben has unleashed that is benefiting every part of our great region?
Well, I thank my honourable friend for asking another question with regard to Ben Houchin, because his achievements could not be possibly crammed into simply one answer. But he is also enabling net zero Teesside. That's the world's first industrial-scale CCUS facility. He is delivering over £200 million of investment into Darlington, Middlesbrough and Hartlepool rail stations to improve rail capacity. And he's using reallocated HS2 money to transform local transport, including the long overdue Darlington Northern Link Road. Again, I would urge anyone who has the opportunity to enable him to continue this good work on the 2nd of May to do so.
Okay, sir.
Thank you, Mr Deputy Speaker. An Airdrie Shotts constituent recently got in touch after fleeing domestic abuse in his relationship. Societal stigma often overlooks male survivors, leaving them without adequate safeguarding services or police support. With 1/3 of domestic abuse victims being male, will the Leader of the House make way in government time for a debate about improving support for all victims of domestic abuse?
Well, the Honourable Lady raises a very important point, and of course many of the measures that we have introduced to look at domestic abuse, or whether it is people trying to control people in one way or another, including financial control, do apply to everyone who is in the unfortunate position to be victim of that. The lady makes an important point, and of course advertising these services to everyone that might be affected by them is also very important. So I shall make sure that the relevant Minister at the Home Office has heard what she has said.
Steve Double.
Thank you very much, Mr Deputy Speaker. I very much welcome the Government's work to expand the role of community pharmacies as part of our healthcare system, particularly the Pharmacy First scheme, which was successfully piloted in Cornwall. But whilst we're placing more demand on pharmacies, in Cornwall we're seeing the number of community pharmacies reduce, with Boots and Asda both announcing closures. And I know my honourable friend, the member for North Cornwall, has written to Asda to oppose the closure of the pharmacy in Bottomley. Pharmacy owners tell me that the current funding arrangements are not adequate to meet this growing demand. So can we have a statement from the Department for Health and Social Care on the Government's plans to maintain and hopefully increase the number of community pharmacies, particularly in rural areas, and make sure they get the funding that they need?
Well, can I thank my honourable friend for firstly welcoming the excellent service that is Pharmacy First. I think this is an incredibly appreciated and convenient scheme for people being able to access particular prescription drugs without having to go and see their general practitioner. Since pharmacies are private businesses that receive NHS funding from pharmaceutical services, the decision to close is obviously made by those commercial organisations. However, his local care board will have a responsibility to ensure good coverage of these services. I shall make sure that the Secretary of State has heard his concerns in that area, and that all his constituents are able to make use of all services, including Pharmacy First, across his constituency.
Thank you, Mr Deputy Speaker. I join the leader in wishing the Jewish community, who I'm proud to represent, a Hag Pesach Sameach. But will the leader join me in congratulating Bernard, Jono and the entire team at Radcliffe Football Club for reaching the highest position they've ever done as the champions of the Northern Premier League, where they will be lifting the trophy this Saturday? And will she agree for a debate in government time about the importance of grassroots football and its benefit to local communities, but more importantly, up the borough?
Well, I thank the honourable gentleman, and I'm sure the whole House would want to join with his congratulations to Bernard, Jono and the whole team on their incredible achievements. He knows that we have had some recent debates on the importance of community sport in helping both communities, and also a pipeline of new talent into such teams. And I will make sure that the Secretary of State has heard what he said.
Jenny Crosby.
Deputy Speaker, for years the town of Amloch has been forgotten, but not on my watch. Anglesey Freeport, the UK government's recent purchase of the Wilver nuclear site, means jobs and investment coming to the north of the island. But I'm not stopping there. Along with local resident Mandy Jones, I've launched a campaign to get the supermarket Aldi to come to Amloch, to give my constituents the opportunity to shop locally. Would the Leader of the House support my Aldi to Amloch campaign? And if successful, will she join Mandy and I in cutting the ribbon?
Well, can I congratulate my honourable friend on all her achievements, the Freeport, the partnership between the County Council and Stena Line, which will be a huge boost to the local economy, and of course her championing of energy projects and the Prosperity Park, as well as the inaugural Trade Centre of Excellence in Wales, all those things that she has helped secure. I will be very happy to do all I can to help her latest campaign. It sounds a good one, and although I can't commit to a date until she gives me one, I hope that if I am able to attend, I will be able to help cut the ribbon, perhaps with a sword.
Christine Jardine.
Thank you very much, Mr Speaker. I was recently able to visit the United States, California, with the Scottish Affairs Committee to look at the opportunities there, the ecosystem they've created. And everyone we spoke to in the space sector spoke very highly of our universities and the sector in this country. However, we also hear regularly of a skills shortage going into that industry, which is a massive opportunity not just for Scotland but for the whole of the UK. It's some time now since we had a debate on the opportunities in the space sector in this place, and I wonder if the Leader would consider setting aside time for such a debate.
Well, I thank the lady for all she is doing, the Honourable Lady, for all she is doing to support this growing and important sector to every part of the United Kingdom. The Government is very aware of the need to ensure that we have skills and a growing workforce that can contribute to that. We are delivering on our commitment to build a whole UK space ecosystem by working with business, academic institutions and devolved administrations, and we have backed that with funding too. She will know how to apply for a debate, but I shall make sure that the Secretary of State has also heard her keenness to give this very important matter more of an airing.
Can we
have a debate on the importance of improving NHS services and expanding capacity in Barnet, so I can update the House on the excellent progress made towards the enlargement of Barnet Hospital A&E, with planning permission secured, work underway, more staff arriving, and patients expected to have a significant improvement in facilities by January.
Well, can I congratulate my right honourable friend on all the work she has done on this matter, and in particular securing the 6.5 million redevelopment of the urgent and emergency care unit in her local hospital. I think that the timeline she has outlined is correct, and it will certainly have a massive impact in improving patient waiting times and also reducing ambulance handover times by creating that additional capacity. She will know that questions to the Secretary of State on this matter, she can air them on the 23rd of April next week.
Lynn Brown.
Grateful, Mr. Speaker. I'm absolutely delighted to tell the House that 81 students from the Bobby Moore Academy in West Ham will be welcomed to the Royal Opera House today to watch a performance of Swan Lake. I hope they absolutely love it, and it inspires a lifetime of joy from the arts. I'm sure the Leader of the House will agree with me, and with my honourable friend, the Leader of the Opposition, that every child should have the opportunity to fall in love with the arts. Can we have a debate in government time where we can explore ways that we can give greater access to the arts for working class communities like mine?
Well, I hope that all students from the Bobby Moore Academy have a wonderful time watching Swan Lake today. She knows that we are absolutely committed to ensure that every child can experience high-quality performances. The funding that we have distributed has been across the whole of the UK, and that is very important. She will have just missed the opportunity to raise this with the Secretary of State, so I shall make sure that she has heard what she said today.
Debate, if changes to the standing orders are necessary, they are the nearest thing that we have to a written constitution. Yesterday there were multiple references to guests in the gallery. A few weeks ago, when an honourable member made such a reference, the fellow actually got up and took a bow. Now, it may be that the current standing orders are no longer fit for purpose and that it should be in the gift of the chair, such references, but we ought to make the change rather than just go on ignoring them.
Well, I thank the honourable gentleman for raising a question that is actually on my brief, which is quite a new experience for me. I will certainly, other members have raised the similar concern, and I will make sure that Mr. Speaker hears it. I do think some flexibility is appreciated. We quite often have particular people that the House does want to acknowledge and send support to in that manner. But I will make sure Mr. Speaker has heard that. It will be a matter really for him as well as the whole of the House. In the meantime, I'm sure we can rely on the honourable gentleman to loudly tut-tut at every opportunity when this happens.
Yeah, Anthony Arty.
Mr Deputy Speaker, on Tuesday the Prime Minister was able to rely on Labour votes to pass his flagship smoking bill. And does the Leader of the House agree that, sadly for the government benches, this shows a Prime Minister in office but actually not in any power?
Well, I do think that on some matters we have free votes in this place, and I think although after the initial shock and confusion and pressure as to having to decide which lobby to go into, that is appreciated by honourable members. On that vote this week, the Prime Minister put forward world-leading legislation which he had passed by this House. I think that shows that he's very much in control.
Martin Vickers.
Thank you, Mr Deputy Speaker. My local newspaper, the Grimsby Telegraph, carried a recent report praising the work of Community Police Officer Dave Cave. And it highlights, I think, the importance of community policing. I'm pleased to say that in Humberside Police, both Chief Officers and the excellent Police Commissioner John Evison also support community policing. Could we have a debate in government time to explore policing methods and the importance of community policing?
Well, I'm sure that the whole House would want to send their congratulations to PC Dave Cave for his near 20 years of service. I'm sure all colleagues would join me in doing that and congratulate him for this well-deserved award. He exemplifies what it means to be a police officer and a fantastic community champion. I'm sure the honourable gentleman knows how to apply for a debate, but such an opportunity would also afford us the ability to shine a spotlight on the very good work that our police forces do, and that we don't note and praise them enough for doing it.
Alex Davis-Jones.
Thank you, Mr Deputy Speaker. Constituents of mine in Pontypridd and Glencoch have got in touch regarding concerns about the operation of Craigehesk Quarry. Will the Leader of the House join me in getting support for securing a debate to ensure that silica dust monitoring is invested in up and down the country in real time, so that my constituents and many others living near quarry sites do not have to live in fear?
Well, I'm sorry to hear about the situation in the Honourable Lady's constituency. The next questions to the relevant Secretary of State are not until the 9th of May, so I will write and make sure that he has heard what she has said.
Thank you, Mr Deputy Speaker. As a keen motorcyclist, I welcome how the government set out an ambitious vision for the moped, motorcycle and entire powered light vehicle sector in its 2021 Transport Decarbonisation Plan. A roadmap to realising this vision is in its joint action plan with the Motorcycle Industry Association, and its key to reducing emissions and alleviating congestion is improving access to the sector through a full-scale licence review. Can we please have a debate in government time on the Motorcycle Industry Association's A Licence to Net Zero campaign?
Well, I thank the honourable gentleman for raising this campaign, and he will know that the department has been meeting with that body. I think they met at a round table on the 17th of January and with other parts of industry on the issues that he touches on. Although there are no current plans to reform L licence category vehicle licences, officials have met with stakeholders at the end of last year, and I think they're due to have a follow-up ministerial round table with the relevant minister shortly after the May recess, in which that particular trade body will be attending. But I thank the honourable gentleman for continuing to campaign on behalf of them.
Patrick Grady.
Mr Deputy Speaker, can I echo the condolences being paid to Mr Speaker and note that the Mass in the Crypt Chapel last night was offered for the repose of the soul of Doug Hoyle. We heard the Leader of the House earlier reinforce the government's position that it rejects the recommendations by the Procedure Committee for the Foreign Secretary to be scrutinised at the bar of the House. The Leader of the House has also written to the Procedure Committee encouraging it to investigate the operation of standing orders that govern opposition days. What's the point of the Procedure Committee investigating matters on the recommendation of the Leader of the House if it's then simply going to dismiss those recommendations?
Well, I think it is important that I raise these matters with the Procedure Committee. It is up to them what they decide, and I think on the latter point they had a meeting yesterday to discuss my correspondence with them. But I think they do a very good job, and we do not dismiss their findings. More often than not, we agree with them, and where we do have disagreements, and with that particular report, it's only in part of it, we publish our response, and of course the other place also has a stake in this matter as well.
Dr. Luke Evans.
Last month I was targeted in a honey trap plot. I immediately reported it to the police and the authorities, so can I put on record my sincere thanks to Leicestershire Police, who've been exemplary in taking this on, and may I also thank the whips for their support. However, I do have significant concerns about how this was handled by the parliamentary security. So will the Leader of the House ask the Speaker to conduct a full review of the system for reporting and investigating incidents reported by MPs, so lessons can be learned so that no MP has to go through the same experiences I've had?
Well, I'm very sorry to have learnt what happened to the honourable gentleman, and thank him for putting on record his thanks to his local police force, who have been fantastic in the work that they have been doing. I will, of course, make sure that not just Mr Speaker, but the whole of the House of Commons Commission has heard his concerns. I know that the Head of Security here takes these matters very seriously, and I'm sure that this will be followed up.
Charlotte Nichols.
Thank you, Mr Deputy Speaker, and can I associate myself with the remarks from the Leader and Shadow Leader of the House on the sad passing of Lord Hoyle, who is a much-loved icon of Warrington, and in wishing my fellow Jews a Hag Pesach Sameach. My constituent Adam Rowland recently met the Prime Minister, who promised, live on television no less, that he would be in touch with him regarding his negative reaction to the COVID vaccine and difficulty accessing the treatment that has been recommended on the NHS. Since then, despite repeated requests, Adam has had no response from anyone in government and feels like he's being treated as some sort of pariah and anti-vax conspiracy theorist. He's not. He's just a man who did the right thing in taking up the vaccine and was one of the unfortunate minority who became ill, and he needs some support. Will the Leader of the House please help Adam get the response he was promised?
I will, of course, absolutely do that, and if the Honourable Lady will give me the details, I shall follow that up straight after this session. Those that were injured by vaccines do need access to support and healthcare and answers, and we should ensure that they get that.
Jerome Mayhew.
The government's absolutely right to fund the doubling of dental training places over the next 5 years, because it understands how important access to NHS dentistry is for our constituents. But if you grow up in Broadland, the nearest place that you can train to be a dentist is currently Birmingham or London, because the east of England is the only region that doesn't have a dental training school. So could we have a debate to discuss the importance of having a new dental training school in East Anglia, and preferably at the University of East Anglia?
Well, my honourable friend is absolutely right that increasing and making sure that every region has medical schools and dental schools is vital, not just in terms of growing that workforce, but ensuring that the workforce will be located in an area that is required. I shall make sure that the Secretary of State has heard what he has said today. He will know that since the pandemic, we have had a huge catch-up job to do. We are doing that with 23% more treatments delivered in the last year alone, and an additional 1.7 million adults and 800,000 more children receiving NHS dental care. But more is needed to be done to ensure that everyone can remain dentally fit, and I will make sure the Secretary of State's heard what he said.
Thank you, Mr Deputy Speaker, and I would like to join in sending my sympathy to the Speaker and his family on the loss of his father, Lord Hoyle. I have written to the Health Secretary 4 times on behalf of a constituent to ask why 65 to 69-year-olds have been excluded from the recent so-called expansion of the rollout of the NHS shingles vaccine. Because those who are turning 65 are eligible, but those who are already 65 or age 66 to 69 are missing out. They must wait until they're 70 to become eligible for the vaccine, despite the extra vulnerabilities of their age group. And not a single response out of the 4 from the Minister gave me a straight answer as to why 65 to 69-year-olds are being excluded from this vaccine rollout. Can the Leader of the House advise any other way in which I can get a clear response from the Minister which lays out clinical or practical reasoning to back up her department's decision to exclude 65 to 69-year-olds from the shingles vaccine?
The Honourable Lady raises a very important question, and if the department had responded to the Honourable Lady, and I will certainly ask them why they have not, they would have had a reply which talks about the step change and the rollout and how the department is going to manage the expansion of access to that particular vaccine. That is understandable, but I know to many members in this House that is not acceptable, because the logic of that also follows that there will be a vaccine available to people that would benefit from it, that the evidence shows is clinically and cost effective for those individuals who will not be able to access it now. And I think honourable members are right to press the policy on that front. She can obviously raise this at questions herself, but I will make sure, as I know it is a concern to a large number of members, that the Secretary of State has heard this and will ask the committees that look at this policy to sense check what it is doing.
Pauline Leith.
Thank you, Mr Deputy Speaker. Progress has been made at Alstom in Derby with a potential order of 10 trains which have been approved for funding, which hopefully will secure the site's future. And I'd like to thank my right honourable friend, the Transport Secretary, for his hard work on this over recent months. But questions remain about the future of rail in the UK, including, of course, the details of Great British Rail's new headquarters in Derby. Could we have a debate in government time on this issue?
Well, can I first of all thank my honourable friend for all the work that she is doing to ensure this new HQ is established quickly. I know that that there has been a lot of work closely with Derby-based partners, including the City Council, to create a shared plan for that HQ. And I know also the Honourable Lady has been very diligent and has been tabling written parliamentary questions on this matter. I shall make sure that the Secretary of State has heard her continuing campaigning on this today, and she will know that the next transport questions will take place on the 16th of May, which will be after that timetable being confirmed.
Mr Deputy Speaker, I've been dealing with a long-running case involving my constituents who lost their investment in the Paradise Golf and Beach Resort in Morocco. Some 800 investors, the majority of them British, lost investments in the resort after construction abruptly halted in 2016. I've contacted the FCDO numerous times, as well as writing to the relevant ambassadors. And the FCDO confirmed the Moroccan ambassador's willingness to meet with investors, but no meeting has been arranged to date. So can we have a debate in government time on how the FCDO can best support those like my constituents who've been left high and dry in this situation?
Well, I'm sorry to hear about this situation, and will, of course, make sure that the FCDO knows that she has raised it again today. The next questions to the ministerial team will be on the 30th of this month, so I shall make sure they have heard that the Honourable Lady may raise it there. And if my office can facilitate with getting either consular assistance or more long-term assistance for those investors, please do call on us.
As someone that grew up in Birmingham, it pains me to see the total financial mismanagement of Birmingham City Council by the Labour Party. Their record stands in stark contrast with the Mayor, Andy Street. If growth, regeneration and house building are left to the Labour Party alone in the West Midlands, it will mean no progress at best, but regression at worst. Does my right honourable friend agree that voters should support Andy Street in May to ensure they keep a mayor at least who can actually get things done?
Well, I think whatever people's political persuasions, they recognise that about Andy Street. He is above politics, and when it has come down to fighting for the people he represents, he has chosen to side with them, in some cases against the policy of his own party. He does deliver for people. He has built more homes for young people and families than in any other region. He has new and improved rail services across the region. Hundreds of millions of pounds have been spent on redeveloping wasteland and instead of building on Birmingham's green belt. £10 billion in government investment secured for the region, 10 times the amount of transport funding that anyone else has ever managed to get in, 100,000 new jobs from his COVID recovery plan, 4,000 apprenticeships, 4 metro extensions, and all without raising a single penny of additional tax. If people want that record to continue, they need to let Andy Street, as their mayor, continue.
Thank you very much, Sarah. The Leader of the House will have followed the Secretary of State for Environment, Food and Rural Affairs efforts to oppose plans for an incinerator in his constituency. She'll also be aware that ministers have now issued a direction to the Environment Agency temporarily pausing the determination of environmental permits for new waste incineration facilities, saying this will give DEFRA officials the chance to lead a piece of work considering the role of waste incineration in the management of residual waste. However, she'll also be aware that the majority of permits for incinerators are considered and granted by local authorities rather than the Environment Agency. Much to the annoyance of residents right across Calderdale, this pause doesn't apply to those permits applied for by at local authorities rather than the Environment Agency. Wouldn't she agree that unless all permits are paused and all applications are considered as part of this piece of work, it does very much look like it's one rule for government ministers and one rule for everybody else?
Well, I don't think that what the Honourable Lady asserts follows from certainly what I know about the situation. There will be different considerations in different cases. What I would suggest is that she raises this at the next departmental questions if she is particularly concerned about other projects. I shall certainly make sure that the department has heard what she has said today, but I think that if she's going to make such accusations, she needs a bit more evidence than that she's furnished us with today.
Rossendale.
I know that the Leader of the House will be looking forward to next Tuesday, the 23rd of April, which of course is St George's Day. As we celebrate with the Royal Society of St George, hosted by Mr Speaker in Speaker's House. But will she ensure that in government time we have a debate here in the House about English affairs? Often we hear about Scottish affairs, Northern Irish affairs, Welsh affairs. How about a debate about England? And also, can we please have a public holiday for St George's Day, perhaps even combined with May Day, so that we have one great celebration for our country?
Well, can I first of all thank the honourable gentleman for affording us all the opportunity to come to the event that he has put together next week and have a jolly good knees up to celebrate St George's Day. I hope that he's extended the invitation to many members, although perhaps the SNP French bench spokesman, given her comments earlier about the England flag, may not wish to attend or might need a little bit of encouragement to do so. He is absolutely right. We should be celebrating our national heritage and also our regional and cultural heritage across the England counties, and I hope that event next week will give us the opportunity to do so.
Richard Gibson.
Mr Deputy Speaker, in January the Bank of Scotland in Brodick closed. In March the Post Office in Brodick closed. In May the Post Office in West Kilbride will close, and in October the Royal Bank of Scotland in Largs will close. As banks abandon our towns, especially across North Ayrshire and Arran, I have to say, and as our postmasters struggle to stay afloat, will the Leader of the House make a statement setting out the importance of access to cash and financial inclusion? And does she share my view that we need minimum service standards for banks and post offices services, including physical outlets in our towns?
Well, Well, I thank the Honourable Lady for raising this important point. And there is that expectation there. She will know that, in particular, the Department for Levelling Up has a programme of work and shares good practice about how these services can be maintained and physically maintained as well, even if particular branches are closing. I will make sure that that department knows that the Honourable Lady may benefit from some advice in that respect, but I know that colleagues from across the House have had similar situations but have managed to retain access to banking, vital particularly for local businesses, but also those services from the Post Office as well.
Philip Holloburn.
Speaker, I bring good news from Kettering, where Northamptonshire Police has been pleased to announce that after 5 years of its groundbreaking Operation Crooked, burglaries have now been halved. A key feature of this campaign has been that since 2019, specialist burglary teams have ensured that every burglary victim gets a visit from the police, whilst the quality of investigations, forensic analysis and intelligence gathering has all been improved. So may we have a statement from my right honourable friend, the Leader of the House, congratulating Northamptonshire Police and all its officers for this tremendous work and encouraging other police forces to follow Northamptonshire's example.
Well, I thank the Honourable Gentleman for bringing us more good news from Kettering and congratulate him for the work that he is doing there. I will, of course, join with him in praising and congratulating Northamptonshire Police for this huge achievement, which I know will have taken a great deal of effort and determination on their part. He will know that since 2010, our communities are safer, with neighbourhood crimes such as burglary and robbery down by 48% on roughly the same resource, and a large part of that in recent years has been the additional recruitment of 20,000 more police officers, which means that there are now over or just shy of 150,000 officers in England and Wales, higher than the previous peak before the police uplift. This is a huge achievement and we should praise his local police force for their part in it.
Clive Efford.
Thank you, Mr Deputy Speaker. The Conservatives cut 21,000 police officers, decimating our local neighbourhood teams. There are now 10,000 fewer police officers and PCSOs in our neighbourhood teams than in 2015. And the percentage of people reporting never seeing a police officer on their street has doubled since 2010. So can we have a debate about the numbers of police officers and the Conservatives' claims about what they're doing about it, so that they can explain why they cut 21,000 police officers in the first place, and we can talk about Labour's pledge to put a neighbourhood team in every community.
Hear, hear.
Well, I think the honourable gentleman has got his facts wrong. We have record numbers of police officers on roughly the same resource. When you leave aside online fraud, we have halved crime. There are some outliers across the country, and they are in Labour-controlled areas. They are in London, under the current Labour London Mayor, where knife crime has soared and serious and violent crime has soared. And they are also in areas such as the West Midlands, where you have a Labour Police Crime Commission. The stats speak for themselves. You are 40% more likely to be a victim of crime if you are in an area that has a Labour Police Crime Commissioner. Our police have done a tremendous job since 2010. We have halved crime on roughly the same resource. That's what you get with Conservatives.
Nicky Aiken.
Speaker, Hajj begins in mid-June and thousands of British Muslims will travel to Saudi Arabia for their pilgrimage to Mecca. Last week I met with the City of London Commander Khan, who highlighted to me the growing issue around Hajj fraud. Thousands of Brits are being targeted by rogue tour operators, and when the Brits get to Saudi Arabia they discover they have no hotel, no tour. Would the Leader of the House consider debating government time, highlighting the growing issue around Hajj fraud and economic fraud in general?
Yeah, yeah.
Leader of the House.
Well, my honourable friend has provided her own answer, and I thank her for raising awareness of this very important issue and sending a clear message to anyone that might be potentially being targeted with such appalling fraud. These kinds of crimes are terrible in any circumstance, but I think particularly trying to exploit people undertaking this particular pilgrimage is really, really unpleasant. I thank her for raising it. She will know that the government takes this very seriously and has had a recent campaign to combat this type of fraud, and I will certainly make sure that all relevant departments are aware of the Honourable Lady's campaign on this matter and assist her in any way that they can.
Andrew Bridgen.
Thank you, Mr Deputy Speaker. Following the publication of the Cass review and its damning conclusion that children were giving unscientific medical advice, does the Leader of the House stand by her statement that trans men are men and trans women are women? And does she still believe that this is the starting point and ending point of the Gender Recognition Act? And will she make a statement as to how we're going to protect our children and young people from dangerous indoctrination by gender ideology?
Leader of the House.
Well, when I was Minister for Women and Equalities, I set up the first inquiry in looking at why so many children were being referred into trans services. There was a 4,000% increase in the number of girls, for example, that were being referred into trans services. And this government has consistently raised such matters. The Cass review is an important review. The gender recognition consultation that was done to look whether we needed to reform the 2004 Act was also an important piece of work for Whitehall. It had a record number of responses, over 100,000, and although I didn't read all of them, I did read the ones from healthcare professionals, and they were raising concerns that the provision and the rules that they were restricted in about referring people into such services were too restrictive and were only looking at one particular type of condition as opposed to a raft of conditions that they were dealing with. I hope that work had informed Whitehall. It certainly then led to other reviews, including the Cass review being done, and I think that was important. These issues need to be gripped, but whilst we do it, we need to send a clear message to people who are trans that their rights and their ability to go about and lead a good quality of life are also protected. That is the aim of the current Minister for Equalities. I refer you to many statements she's made, including the provision of same-sex spaces. She has always taken a care to mention certainty and support for trans people.
Matt Weston.
Thank you, Mr Deputy Speaker. Last summer, I was a lone voice amongst the Warwickshire MPs in calling for Warwickshire not to be subsumed into the West Midlands Combined Authority under Andy Street. Thank goodness I did. The economy is forecast by PricewaterhouseCoopers to be the worst performing economic region in the country. Andy's trams are not running. Now we understand, in 8 years, he's only built 46 social rent houses. That's 6 a year, despite 64,000 people being on the waiting list. Last night at Hustings, he said he didn't realise it was his responsibility, or there was a need for that housing. By comparison, Mayor Khan has started 11,000 council homes in 2022 to 23, and the Labour candidate for the West Midlands mayoralty, Richard Parker, has promised 2,000 homes, social rent homes, a year. And even in Warwick District, my little local district council, we have built more than Andy Street. So as chair of the all-party parliamentary group for council housing, can I ask for a debate in government time on the importance of delivering social rent housing?
Leader of the House.
Well, I thank the honourable gentleman for his question. I think there's a pattern to Labour's questions here. While we talk about Conservative mayors' records in office, the opposition try and smear them. But it does afford me the opportunity to recap on Andy Street's record. He's won $10 billion of investment from central government. He has secured and delivered the 2022 Commonwealth Games. He has recovered the regional economy after COVID. He secured the investment zone. He's extended the metro. He is making Coventry an all-electric bus city. He has reduced and retained low bus fares. He's built more homes for young people and families than any other region. 15,690 homes were built in West Midlands last year alone, and it's the only region that is on track for its housing targets. In stark contrast, the Labour London Mayor has missed his targets. Andy has delivered 4,000 apprenticeships, and he has been a champion for community cohesion in some very, very difficult times. He's standing on his record. He is standing on the fact that he has stood up and fought for his constituents and those that he represents. I think that the London Mayor's record sits in stark contrast to be very much more deficient.
Anne McLaughlin.
Here. Springburn Winter Gardens Trust has submitted a bid to the Community Ownership Fund to stop our winter gardens, once the largest glass house in Scotland, from collapsing. Could we have a debate in government time on the need to protect our built heritage? Watching and listening from the gallery today was my 4-year-old constituent, Callie Laing, until she, for some reason, got bored.
Shame.
You, Mr Deputy Speaker, I'm sure care, as does the Leader of the House, as do I, about girls' voices being heard. So, in keeping with that, Callie would like a bill to guarantee a free annual seaside holiday for all children. She said she'll accept an amendment to apply this legislation just to children at Scarroway Nursery in Milton, in my constituency. So, could the Leader of the House advise how Callie might make that happen?
Here.
The Leader of the House.
Well, I thank the Honourable Lady for her question and for raising the important work that her constituent does. I noticed that the Honourable Member of the New Forest is not in his place and therefore is unable to tut, but no one else was tutting, so I'm welcoming her to the House today. I will certainly make sure that the relevant department has heard the ambitions that she has outlined today and will furnish her with all advice that they can.
Kevin Brennan.
Thank you, Mr Deputy Speaker. Can the Leader explain what's happened to some of the government's flagship law and order bills on her watch? The sentencing bill is nowhere to be seen. In effect, it's now the suspended sentencing bill. The criminal justice bill is now the criminal justice delayed bill. And the House will be aware of her previous career as a magician's assistant. So can she explain why we're witnessing these baffling disappearing acts?
Well, the honourable gentleman will know that I will announce future business in the usual way. I hope to give all members early sight and early warning of when legislation is coming back to the House, and I will continue to do that.
Order.
Order about
1 moment.
about business.
I understand that the Honourable Lady wishes to raise a point of order arising directly from matters that have been raised at business questions. For that reason alone, I'm prepared to take this now in order to make sure that the Leader of the House is here. Lucy Powell.
Thank you very much, Mr Deputy Speaker. I just wanted to give the Leader of the House the opportunity to clarify something that in her response to me earlier, when I asked questions about the allegations relating to the member for the Fylde, the Leader suggested that some allegations had now been referred to the police. Was she referring to these allegations or other allegations regarding other members? Because I think those outside of here have been given the wrong impression, if so.
As the Honourable Lady has indicated, that's strictly not a point of order for the Chair, although it is a point of order, but given that the Leader of the House wishes to respond, I'm quite prepared to permit that as well. Leader of the House.
I'm very happy to clarify. No, the Honourable Lady was asking about a raft of allegations, including the allegations starting with the Honourable Member for Hazel Grove. And my understanding is that that particular issue is under a number, there's I think 3 police forces that are looking into it. I'm not aware of any other police investigations.
Point of order, Alec. Sir Alec Shelbrooke.
Thank you, Mr Deputy Speaker. Mr Deputy Speaker, earlier on I asked a question related to Gibraltar, and I feel it would be remiss of me if I didn't bring the House's attention to my register of interest from visiting Gibraltar on behalf of the Gibraltar Government several years ago, but I feel it would be remiss of me not to have mentioned that.
Order. That's, again, not strictly a matter of order for the Chair, but it is now a matter of record, and I thank the Honourable Gentleman for that. And can I also thank the Leader of the House and the Opposition front bench for their attendance. We now move on to the Select Committee statement on behalf of the Procedure Committee.